Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1632A, and today's date is August 7th, 2018, and the title of the episode is, The Setup is Complete, Next Phase is Coming. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded a new interview with Gregory Mannarino. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So all you need to do is go over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight. You'll see the interview there. You can play it right on there. Or you can come over to the x22report.com or newssentinel.com site. And all you need to do is scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side. You can play the interview right on the site. Or you can go to Steemit, that is steemit.com/@X22Report, and you can play the interview on Steemit. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we've been talking about the blockchain, cryptocurrency, and the different coins. And we know the central bankers, they're completely opposed to this. And this is why they created this environment where people think that Bitcoin and other coins and the blockchain, they're all used in criminal activity, terrorists use it, and they've been building this up over time. The reason for this is because they don't want people using a different system, one which they cannot control. They're very nervous and afraid of this. And the Chinese came out with a report saying, yeah, criminal activity with the crypto market, really non-existent. And here in the U.S., an agent of the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, has noted that Bitcoin's role in crimes has dropped to just 10% of transactions, while transactions themselves have grown tremendously. And this is DEA Special Agent Lilita Infante, who is a member of the 10-person Cyber Investigation Task Force, said that the ratio of legitimate to illegitimate Bitcoin transactions have flipped over the past 5 years. Because why? You can track everything that has been done. And it makes it very, very difficult to hide the coins. They can be found out. You know what the address is. It's very difficult to do compared to cash, where you don't know where any of that is. It could be anywhere. And that's why you see money laundering with cash. This is why the drug dealers use cash. This is why the intelligence agencies use cash, because they know they can get away with it. Really, the blockchain, the cryptocurrencies, it's very difficult to use this and to succeed in a criminal activity, because eventually what will happen, it could all be traced if you really wanted to look for it. And the central banks, they knew this all along, but they used this to convince everyone and to demonize it and to make everyone think that this was a huge problem. And then, of course, what they did was they manipulated it. And again, we said this way back, where they were buying a lot of the coins and all they had to do is sell them to drop the price. So they really fixed the system just like they did with precious metals. And they do this to force everyone away from it. Now, if you want to hear the truth or understand what cryptocurrencies are, what the blockchain is, well, you can go to x22reportschool.com. There you'll bring you to a website. You can take a online class and learn about it. Yes, it's going to cost money. You can also go to the trading rooms. Yes, it's going to cost money, and watch real traders. And you can mimic what they're doing if you don't know what you're doing, and they're there to help you. So you can go to either of these places to learn more about cryptocurrencies. You can understand it, and if you already understand it and you want to learn how to trade, this is a perfect place for you. So once again, the link is x22reportschool.com. All you need to do is type that in your address bar in your browser, and it'll bring you right over to the website that has both the school and the trading room, and you can read all about it. Here in the United States, what are we seeing? Well, the BLS is out there, and the JOLTS report is out there. And they're telling us about the development of jobs. And there was a surprising development back in June when JOLTS report revealed a curious inflection point. For the first time in reported BLS data, the number of U.S. job openings surpassed the number of unemployed workers. Now, if we fast forward 2 months, the BLS reported on Friday, the number of unemployed workers increased from 6 million to 6.3 million. The question was whether this increase would also reverse this opening unemployment trend. Well, guess what? The JOLTS report came out. For the third month in a row, the number of job openings stayed above the total number of unemployed workers. This means that June was the third consecutive month in which the number of job openings was higher than the number of unemployed Americans. In other words, if an economy in which there was a perfect match between worker skills and employer needs, there would be zero unemployed people at this moment, which of course is not the case. According to the historical correlation between the number of hires and the 12-month cumulative job change, per the establishment survey, either the pace of hiring needs to drop or else the number of new jobs will rise significantly in the coming months. Now, we need to understand how this is all figured out. Once again, those companies that have these open job recs, and if you ever worked in a company, in a department, you understand you don't like to lose those because you never get them back. So they might be open, but there also might be a job freeze from upper management where they say you can interview, keep the job openings there, keep the recs there, but you just can't hire anyone. So when they come around to report, how many open recs do you have? Well, we have 10. Oh, okay, so there's 10 job openings here. Then they go to the next department. How many do you have? And then the company reports it. But the problem is they never tell you about the freeze. That means you can't hire anyone even though you have the job recs. Now, once again, if there are so many openings and not enough employees, well, wouldn't you see wages move up? Wouldn't you give some type of incentive to get the workers in? Because there's a shortage. That's what they're telling us. Supply demand. I mean, we saw this back in the tech boom. There was a shortage of tech individuals, a lot of openings for tech jobs. You saw them all over the place. Salaries went up and up and up and up. Why? You needed to attract more and more people. Here, we are not seeing that. So there is a problem. Now, if you look at the job hires versus 12-month cumulative change in payrolls, and you look at the graph, you can see we are at that point, and now the graph is really going in a weird direction that we've never seen before. Because right prior to 2008, both the 12-month job change and hires, they were pretty closely related. They went up, they hit a certain point, they both started to come down and come down really, really fast because we entered a Great Recession. Now, they're completely separate and apart, and what we're seeing here is that the 12-month job change, it's starting to decline, and the hires, well, that is moving up. This is very odd. We've never really seen this before. And what this tells us is that this whole thing is completely manipulated to the nth degree. Everything that we're looking at, the entire economy, is manipulated. This is why the Fed is getting rid of the yield curve or changing the calculation, getting rid of when they dump their assets from their balance sheet, their job indicator graph. They got rid of that. They don't want anyone to realize what is really going on here because things really don't make sense. Now we have the manipulation of GDP, savings, and everything else. Well, everything doesn't make sense because when you manipulate everything and it's not based on reality, well, nothing makes sense. But one thing we do know is that the 1% of America, they haven't controlled this much wealth since before the Great Depression. Now, the gap between rich and poor in America has ballooned over the several decades. In 2015, the top 1% of America made 26.3 times as much income as the bottom 99%, an increase from 2013, when they earned 25.3 times as much, according to a recent study released by the Economic Policy Institute. So when we look at this, we see that a family needed an annual income of about $421,926 to be part of the 1% nationally. But in some states, the threshold was higher. The top 1% of Americans took home more than 22% of all income in 2015. That's the highest share since a peak of 23.9 just before the Great Depression in 1928. And we're back where we started. Now remember, most of the people today, well, they have a lot of credit card debt. They don't have a lot of savings. They don't even have enough for an emergency. And actually, they have less than $1,000 in their account. Even though the savings rate was completely revised and manipulated to make us think that people had a lot more in their accounts. This way, the Fed, again, would move up the interest rates. This is the whole plan here. We talked about this in the last report. We see that in reality, it's not jiving. What we're seeing right now is a huge push to control the narrative. And we talked about both sides, and we're seeing it play out right in front of our eyes. I mean, the corporate media, the mainstream media, they don't even know how to make sense of this anymore, because they were on the path of saying, okay, Trump, the economy is going to start to fall apart, and we're going to blame it on him, because we knew that the economy was fake, phony, and false. We knew that if he put tariffs in place, the central bankers would bring it down. We blame it on Trump. But things have changed. Everything was recalculated. GDP, it doubled. The savings rate doubled. Unemployment dropping like a rock. Now the mainstream media is out there and they're saying, okay, the economy is not doing poorly. We can't blame this on Trump. We thought it would be collapsing by now. And this was the plan. What is going on here? So now, and you can see this on CNN, where they're out there saying, well, the reason why the economy is doing so well is because Trump inherited it from Obama. Obama handed off an incredible economy, and this is why everything is going the way it is. No, that's not what's happening here. What's happening here is a huge push to control the narrative of what's going to happen. Now, is Trump and the patriots themselves going to bring down the economy? No, they're going to force someone else to bring down the economy. But they're going to control the narrative. We talked about yesterday why the GDP numbers, the savings rate, and everything else was manipulated to make it look like the economy is doing the best that it's ever been, even though in reality it's not doing that. It's to force the central bank. It's to force the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates. And you can see right now the Fed is out there, and some of the Fed pundits are out there saying, well, we don't have to raise the interest rates even though the economy looks much, much stronger than we even reported. And they're trying to figure out a way out of this. But they've been saying for such a long time they're going to raise rates if the GDP looks good, unemployment is at the lowest, and the economy is very strong. They fell right into this trap, and they're trying to get themselves out of it. But it's going to be very, very difficult to do this. And what we're seeing is the setup. What's coming is the next phase. We already see coming out of the Wall Street Journal, and this is about Senator Rand Paul, where he's out there pushing the idea of an audit once again. And of course, he's trying to persuade those individuals in Congress to go along with this. And he's saying that the Fed will never know what they're really doing because they're destroying a lot of their documents and we can't audit them. And this is the beginning step towards the next phase, where they're going to start to make a case of why we need to go and look at the Fed. And this time it is very, very different from all the other times, because back then we didn't have an actual individual who really wants to audit the Fed, who wants to get this done, to take over the central bank. Now we do. It's already set. Q has been mentioning it. Trump already came out and laid the groundwork to set up the Fed. The Fed has no choice right now. They're going to have to probably raise rates the next time. They froze it this time. I mean, yes, they can make excuses. They can say, oh, one more time. And all they'll do is they'll bring the GDP up to 5%. They'll bring the unemployment down to 3%. They'll say the savings rate is incredible. They'll make the economy look like it has never been like this ever before in history, where it's so incredible. Why do we have such low interest rates? And they're going to force the Fed into raising the rates. The Fed is going to crash the economy. They're being pushed to crash the economy so Trump and the patriots can control the narrative, to set them up, to go in, to take control, to audit them, to see what they've been doing. to find out and tell the American people what's really been happening. And this is the next phase. We're already heading in this direction. We see the petro yuan. It is surging right now because of all the sanctions on Iran. And a lot of countries are starting to look at the petro yuan. Now, think about this. What is happening in the Middle East? The wars are coming to an end. We see it happening in Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, Sudan, Somalia. And again, this was the plan of the deep state to have regime change, take control of the petrodollar to keep the system going. On the opposite side, we have Trump and the Patriots saying, listen, we can't keep this system going because this is a deep state central bank system. This system needs to come down. And we know that the dollar, once this starts to fall apart, is not going to be able to hold on. A lot of the countries are going to look and say, listen, we do not have faith in the dollar anymore. And they're going to start moving to another currency. This is why the petro yuan was developed. This is why China has been amassing a huge amount of gold. This is why Russia has been amassing a huge amount of gold. This is why they've been making bilateral trades with all the different countries. They haven't been bringing in military force and forcing these countries to do business with them. They've been working with them. Africa is saying, we don't even need to use the dollar. Why do we keep this in reserves? Why don't we just use the yuan? Because we're doing a lot more business with them than we are with the United States. It makes no sense. And we're starting to see the switch over. And it's been happening for quite a while. It's just accelerating right now. And we see that things are moving in that direction. So we're going to be going through this transition. We see it happening right in front of our faces. Everything's been set up. And we're heading into the next phase. So get ready, get prepared. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.